with about 20% of the Vegas Golden Knights season still remaining and them currently sitting atop of the Western Conference, there is a real shot that in the coming weeks they can guarantee their spot in the playoffs. But with the playoffs being as crowded as they are, there's only so much space that the Vegas Golden Knights can make, and there's a chance that the last few weeks of the season could be make or break for the entire Western Conference. So I wanted to be covering exactly how the Vegas Golden Knights can solidify their spot in the playoffs. But before that, I have one question for you guys, and that is, where do you see the Vegas Golden Knights landing in the seeding once playoffs begin? Do you think they'll still remain atop the entire Western Conference at the number 1 seed, or do you see them falling a little bit? Whether that's wild card or number 1, wherever it may be, comment that down below. I would love to have a conversation with you guys, but let's not waste any more of your time. Let's go and get right into this. So here is how it's going to work. First, we're going to break down the schedule. What do the games look like through the rest of the year for the Vegas Golden Knights? Then we're going to move on to the points and how everything's likely going to play out for the rest of the year in the Western Conference and the Golden Knights, and how many points they're going to need to get that spot. And lastly, we're going to talk about what that means for Vegas and how soon they could get this done. So let's first start with the schedule. Now, behind me is the first line, and if I can get this up here, here is the actual schedule. Now we'll be going a little bit more in depth with this. Of course, the Hurricanes game should be happening tomorrow night. Now I'm not sure when this video will be going up. The Hurricanes game might have already happened. It's not going to affect the situation at hand too much, but depending on when this video goes up, the Knights are staring down 17 games left in their season, and of those 17 games, 7 are going to be against playoff teams, with about 40% of those games would be the playoff team. 7 equals 40. The Hurricanes, Wild on a back-to-back, the Kings, Stars, and then the Kraken on a back-to-back, or I guess, I don't know if it's back-to-back, but like in a row, Kraken twice to end the season out. Then 2 games are against wild card teams. At the current moment, all of these are based on current standings. That's 10% of the remaining games. And 8 games are against non-playoff, non-wild card teams. That's about 50% of the remaining games are against non-playoff teams. And that's going to be the Blues, Flyers, Flames, Blue Jackets, Canucks, Flames, Sharks, and Predators. Now, as mentioned, all these standings are based on the current recording time, but nonetheless, they also have the 17th hardest strength of schedule remaining, so right around average, slightly below it. The Vegas Golden Knights are in a pretty good spot where they can make a push here for a really, really good spot in the playoffs. But with all that being said, Vegas still has to put themselves in a chance to clinch, and they're in a spot where they could clinch very, very soon because how they have been playing recently. So the next stretch of games here for the Golden Knights could really be a huge factor in how things play out. If they go on a little bit of streak here where games aren't going their way, it could quickly be a matter of really fighting for wild card or normal placement in how things all play out. And it could quickly transform how the playoffs look. But with just a little bit of action here, they could get their spot very, very early on once we, take a gander at how everything looks. So the current odds suggest that the Western Conference bottom line to make the playoffs is going to be about 96 points. And that, of course, would be the bottom seed. So your wild card seed would need 96 points. That is the estimate right now. Now, currently, the Vegas Golden Knights sit with 82 points, meaning they would need only 14 more points to get their spot in the playoffs. Now, with all that being said, actually, sorry, if I said 82, 84 points at this current moment. So slightly less now. You'd only need 6 wins. With a possible 34 points on the radar through these remaining 17 games with 2 points per game. Vegas, 34 potential. They only need 12. They would only need a 35% points percentage, which is very, very low. Their current season is 65 point percentage. So they would need nearly half to guarantee their spot in the playoffs. They're in an incredible spot as it currently stands. That means that their current record at the end of the season, from now to the end of the season through 17 games, to get that threshold of 96 points, their record could be as low as a 45, 31, and 6 record would get you to that number. And that's just giving you 6 wins. Of course, double that gives you 12. That gets you to that spot. That doesn't include any overtimes. Or in an absolute chaos situation, the Knights could still make the playoffs with 39, 25, and an 18 record, which would mean they don't win a single game through the remainder of the year. They just go to overtime and still lose, and they could still find a way to make the playoffs. So, incredible situation to be in for the Vegas Golden Knights. And as we get closer, these numbers are going to change dramatically. And with all that being said, I expect them to land closer to the 50 win range, whether that's 48, whether that's 50, 52, whatever it may be. Currently sitting with 38, 39 wins. They could definitely jump, up to the 50 range, but all you would need would be that 45 wins. Even worst case scenario, 39 would still find a way in. Now, with all the information that we know, that has just been presented to you guys, from the schedule and the points and how everything needs to play out, let's take a look at the schedule right here behind me. We're going to be going game by game and kind of how soon could the Knights guarantee their spot in the playoffs. How quickly can they assure that they will be in the playoff race? So the next game for Vegas at the current moment is going to be against the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, with everything that's going on, the goalie situation, and you did just beat the Hurricanes, but the Hurricanes are a top-level team. Vegas has shown to be a top-level team as well, but this is going to be a tough matchup. So I'm going to say that this is going to end up being a loss. That's going to leave Vegas with the current number of points that they have already at this moment. Now, after the Hurricanes game, Vegas is in a really, really good spot to go on a little bit of a stretch here. The next 6 games, as you can see here behind me, it's a little bit of a mess. So it's going like this, up, top, bottom, left, and right, and then these Seattle games are the last 2. It might be a little confusing. Hopefully you guys can actually read what's going on. But, I'll turn a little bit here. So, like I said, a little bit confusing. I clipped it from Google. It's going to go rows of 2. So left, right, down, left, right, stuff like that. The Hurricanes game, of course, as mentioned, is up next. And then you have a 6-game streak of non-playoff teams. You can have the Blues, the Flyers, the Flames, the Blue Jackets, Canucks, and Flames once again. That's a good stretch there against some lighter competition. And with how well Vegas has been playing, I see them likely coming out of this on potentially a streak even. Now, I will say for light purposes, I could see them winning all 6 of those games. But I'm going to say 4-2. And those losses, to me, are going to come from the Flames. Vegas will split this little 2-game series right here in the middle of this end of the season here. 1-1. They'll lose 1 game to the Flames. And I think there's going to be a shocker to the Canucks. I'm not quite sure, but I see Vegas going 4-2 from this Blues to Flames series, 6-game stretch right here. Going 4-2. Now, if you go 4-2, you're going to end up gaining 8 points in this stretch time. That would bring Vegas up to 92 points on the year, leaving them only 4 away from the guaranteed spot in the playoffs. At least, of course, basing all these numbers on prediction and assumptions at this current moment. 96 fair share. You're only 4 away. Now, after those 6 games, you're going to be going against the Oilers. Back-to-back right here. Not sure if they're actually back-to-back nights, but going against the Oilers. Now, Oilers currently sit in the play-in. Very, very solid team, and potentially they have what it takes to cause a stir-up, cause a little bit of a mess in the playoffs with whomever they go against. I see Vegas splitting this mini-series here between the Oilers, going 1-1, gaining 2 more points, and moving to 94 points. Now, after you've done that, you're going to move on to this final stretch of 8 games, which certainly going to be rough. You only need 2 points, but you would like to get above that and gain that number 1 seed in the Western Conference and guarantee your spot. So, through the remaining 8 games, you're going to have the San Jose Sharks, then the Minnesota Wild, and then again the Minnesota Wild, Predators, Kings, Stars, and then Kraken, 2 games in a row. That's a really, really tough stretch. 6 of those final 8 games are against playoff teams. Not wild card, but playoff teams. Really, really tough stretch here. But I think by that point, probably around the Oilers game, you're hopefully going to get back Logan Thompson, which is going to be a huge part of this. And I have a feeling that Vegas is going to split these 8 games 4-4, go exactly 500. Maybe not the best finish to the year, but it's enough for the Vegas Golden Knights. And that would put them to 8 additional points, moving to 104 points on the year. Definitely above that 96 mark, and still, honestly, in competition for the best seed in the Pacific Division, maybe even the best seed in the Western Conference if they just get a few extra wins here. Now, with that being said, 96 is the ballpark range. I'm going to say they probably hit that at that Sharks game right after the Oilers stretch right there. I think that's a really, really good time. That makes a lot of sense, and you still have 7 games where you can rest people, fight for the better seed, figure some things out that maybe aren't working, whether that's, power play or whatever it may be, and kind of work some things through, get some people back from injury, and you could become a real problem once the playoffs begin. But with all that being said, those are kind of my thoughts on how the Golden Knights can assure their spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, question, as mentioned at the top of the video, is where do you think Vegas will land in the standings once the playoffs come around? Do you see them at the top? Do you see them near the bottom? Do you see them in the wild card? Where is that? Comment it all down below and explain why you think that's going to happen. Will it be because of injuries? Is it because they just seem to win games that no one thinks they're going to win? Or what is your reason? Comment it down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. And if you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe. I have a whole lot of Vegas content coming for you, and especially with the playoffs approaching very, very fast, we're going to have a whole lot of coverage on just that. But as always, I hope it taught something today. I hope it made you smile. I hope it made you laugh. Something really important to me. If I smile on this day in a great way. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.